A life well lived. That to me describes Bill Pemberton. A life well lived. So how do I know that? Well, anyone who was married to Liz Pemberton had a life well lived, huh? Anyone who has such wonderful children as Bill does and grandchildren has lived a life well lived, right? A life well lived. How do I know that? I know that because of Bill's friendship with me. I first met Bill after Liz died. I picked him up on the day that Liz died. He was hobbling on a bad knee. I drove him to the hospital. I tell you what, it binds a person together when you go with them to the hospital to see their wife who has just died. So Bill and I, from that point on, had a common bond that bound us together. It's rare as a pastor to find a friend in the church that you can be really real with. Well, I found that friend in Bill Pemberton. I could talk about anything with him, and we would. We'd talk about a lot of different topics, and I didn't have to just talk about church or spiritual things, but things like hunting and turkeys and fishing and life. A life well lived. How do I know that pertains to Bill? Because in my mind, he was a man's man. A man's man. We went fishing together from time to time. And what Bill would do is he'd catch frogs in his yard and we'd use those for bait. And then when I would get a good fish on my line or Bill would get a good fish on his line that would fight really hard, he had this expression that I'll never forget. He would say, "He's got shoulders, big shoulders." A man's man. Also, Bill took me turkey hunting. I had never been hunting before in my life. I had never shot a shotgun before in my life. So he got me all set up. He got me a blind. He showed me how to do a turkey call. Again, I had never fired a rifle in my life. So the first time I did it was with Bill. And then one morning I got a turkey. And I don't know who was more excited, me or Bill. And from then on, turkeys are a lot of what we talked about, and they were our common bond. And he'd always send me pictures of the turkeys that he was feeding out in a particular field that he was getting big and fat for hunting season. So a life well lived. How do I know that? Because of his faith. Losing his wife did something to him, I think. And from that point on, his faith not only became her faith, but became his as well. And in a different and deeper way, her faith, life, and death inspired him in his own. A life well lived. How do I know that? Because of the twinkle in his eye, accompanied by his laughter. He was in on the joke, and it was wonderful to be in on the joke about jokes and about life and about church with Bill. I was fond of Bill, very fond of Bill, glad to call him friend. And it was an honor to be called and known by him as friend. It wasn't only as pastor that I knew him, but as a friend. So I'd like to end with a poem that speaks to me of Bill. He knew the spiritual truths from which this poem speaks, and he knew the God from which these truths come. The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in the beauty of the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in grace of the world and am free. Resting in grace now with those he loved and lost and who have gone on before. And that's our hope as well, as we put our faith in Christ and this God of love that Jesus shows us. I'm thankful for you, Bill. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you that I could call you friend. Thank you for calling me friend. Peace be to your memory. Peace be to Bill Pemberton's memory.